Please be seated, everybody. Okay, it's showtime. Let's sit down, everyone. Welcome to CSL Visalia. I am your host today, Steve Kinchu. I am a member of the Board of Trustees. And yes, Jack, I know we talked about changing the name of Board of Trustees, but we have not actually officially made that move yet. So until we do, I'm Board of... Okay, good. All right. So, if you're new today, welcome. Hey, looks like we've got somebody we haven't seen in a long time. Sean, good to see you. All right, so, welcome. We see you. We know you're here. Thanks for being here. All right, I am going to turn this over to Donna for the announcements.
So we have a small group today, but it's nice to see Sean back. So Donna Kay and I have spent the last week in Asilomar, where it was in the 50s and 60s. We had to wear jackets. It was delightful. It wasn't a CSL conference, but mostly CSL there. Music by Karen Drucker twice a day. I see we're doing a Karen Drucker song today. Other musicians, Anton, who's been here, played here several times, he was there. So it was wonderful. It was just cool. It was wonderful. We got to talk to a lot of people. And what we found out was what Reverend Jack said is true. Most of the CSLs are not too much bigger than we are. So isn't that interesting? I mean, there are some bigger ones, but a number of them say there were 20 or 30 people. So that was something interesting to hear, and they're doing interesting things that hopefully maybe we can get a few things going. There's a class that maybe Don and I will do that they did there about the 3 points? Trinity, yes, it was great. So let's do announcements. Board meeting today. We're still calling it the board. Okay, can't get off the dais either. 12 noon today. Everybody's welcome to come. I think we'll do it in a cool room, and we'll also be on the website. You just go to the website and you see where the board meeting link is, and you can come in that way. Baby contest. Last week we had wonderful chicken dinner by Zaya's grandma Bev. We made over $100, so thank you. Good food. And then today, Coco's mama and daddy have brought a couture, I can't say that word, couture, anyway, it's food. Charcuterie, thank you so much. So that's another way we can put some money in Coco's pot for the baby contest. So we're moving along with the baby contest. And next week, we have a salad bar in honor of Phineas, who eats Sima's plants. And you can see her eating the plants. I told you last time that at first Sima thought there were bugs in it. Then she caught Phineas eating her plants. So that's next Sunday. No dogs next Sunday because Phineas isn't good with dogs, but we will have Phineas here, and we will have a salad bar for that. And then the next thing we're doing for our baby contest is Synanon night, which is this Saturday at the Kinshu's home. So we'll watch part 2 of Synanon. We had a great discussion a couple months ago when we watched part 1. If you didn't see part 1 and want to see it, they'll play that at 5:30. Thank you, 5:30. And at 6:30, we'll have some snacks, and we'll watch part 2, and then we'll have some great discussion like we had last time, and we'll have some people from Synanon that live there giving us some good insight about it. And the next one is for Donna K. Donna W. I can't keep all the Donnas straight either. Fast. They can't see you, so.
Hi. Looks like there's a lot more of you from this aspect of looking at things. Back there, it looks bare. So reminding you guys that I'm having auditions for the talent show, and the first audition is coming up this Wednesday, July 24th. I'll be here from 5:30 to 8, and hopefully James will also be here, maybe even by 5 if he thinks about it, so that I don't get left high and dry, since I know absolutely nothing about sound and machines and things like that. And then the next audition is going to be Saturday from 11 to 2, also here. Once again, I love you, James. You're going to show up, aren't you? Anybody can do anything. I know Sima's going to do a little comedy skit, and her boyfriend is going to play the guitar. And that means that anything that might have been racy in the words that went with the guitar, we're not going to hear. We're just going to hear the guitar, which is going to be wonderful. So anybody that knows anybody, you don't have to like make a big deal. Just come down anytime between those hours. And we still have some of these on the back table there. So you can take some and pass them around if you like. And I hope to see some people there. We still don't, I know that Donna O has said that our date right at the moment for the actual show is October 5th, although I feel it might still be in a little bit of flux. So we might have it earlier if God is good, which He is. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Donna. And now Reverend Jack has our last announcement about the prayer and care team.
Thank you. We have a very special thing coming up tomorrow evening, and that is putting together a program to invite you to become a prayer warrior, a prayer coach, because one of the things that we know is that prayer works, especially if it's affirmative prayer. And so one of the things that the Board of Trustees, also known as the Leadership Council, want to bring into our practice again is the frequent use of prayer, so that there's prayer immediately available to you after service on a Sunday, that there's prayer available to you online if you want to send in a prayer request, and when you reach out online for that prayer request, that there is a mechanism where it can either be emailed or the form can be completed. But what we're going to be talking about in this training tomorrow evening is the how-to and how we're going to set this up logistically for us. So I know in my life that prayer works, and I hope that you know in your life that prayer works, and that we are called to be there for one another in this. And so what I want you to do is let go of any picture of thinking, oh, it should be a practitioner, oh, it should be a lay minister, oh, it should be somebody else other than me. No. If you feel called, if you feel that nudge, it's you. It's you. So 6 o'clock tomorrow evening, join practitioner Betty Harris and I as we offer this training, this little how-to for you so that we can get this program set up.
There are flyers on the back with a Zoom link, so you'll know how to get into it.
So zoom in for the class. So I think it's time to zoom over to the band and for the musicians to talk about what kind of day this is, or what kind of morning it is. Hit it. Don't make me sing.
read the mission statement. You can read it with me, please. And remember, we're talking about imperfection, so we don't have to be perfect here as far as how the cadence goes. So, Center for Spiritual Living, Visalia, is the place everyone comes together, connecting in love and learning how to create abundant, joyful, and peaceful lives. Oh, that was beautifully imperfect. That's great. Love it. All right, here's Jack.
Thank you, Steve. All right. So we want to come together now for our centering and our invocation. So if you will just take a moment, if you're willing, to close your eyes. And if you're watching us from at home or online, if you're in a safe place, just close your eyes right now if you're willing. And take a moment to just notice all those random thoughts that are going through your mind right now. And know that the ego has also awakened on this beautiful morning. And the ego is whispering, the chair is uncomfortable. Why is he wearing that color? Why do I feel this way? I should have had a sandwich before I came in. I should have had another cup of coffee. Why am I, oh, it's a little too warm. All that mind chatter. That's the ego. That's the ego wanting to say no to you. So let that go. Acknowledge it. Say thank you for being there. Thank you for showing up, but I got this. And I want you to bring the idea of what a beautiful morning this is to mind. What was the example that you had of that? Was it awakening to the sound of a bird chirping outside your window? Was it the sound of water trickling down in a fountain that you heard? Was it something else that almost took your breath away when you saw the sunrise? Maybe it was seeing an old friend for the first time in a while. Feel that energy of what it means to be experiencing a beautiful morning. Even if you have to imagine it. What is it like? And so as we come together in this gathering today, we know that there is no place that love is not. We know that there is no place that God is not. We know there is no place that this universal spirit that is guiding us is not present. And we can tap into it. The gift of a beautiful day is we can tap into it right now and be open to seeing the beauty that has been prepared for us. It's already there. Today, I choose to be inspired. Today, I choose to be open to whatever message Spirit has for me. I am open to getting the message from the lyrics of the song. I am willing to get the message from the spoken word from the pulpit. I am willing to get the message from a greeting from someone else in the room. Spirit, I am open. Bring it to me now, for I am ready. I am ready to receive my blessing. As we come together, we turn this day over to Spirit for divine right action, getting any thought our ego may have out of the way, so that Spirit can arrive in its purest form. And so we simply say we're ready, and we give thanks for this day that has been provided by affirming together. And so it is. And so it is. All right. I think it's time for our congregational. Oh, that's right. I want to talk about it. The class. Carol, I know, why don't you come on up, because I know that you're going to be doing the inclusivity statement, but I want to ask, since I understand from a little bird that you got to attend Heart and Soul Center of Light's production of Summer School 2024. So come closer to me and share the mic with me and tell me any thoughts you might have had.
Well, I'll tell you the best part. The best part was going online through Zoom, the magic of Zoom. I did not have to get in a hot car on a hot day and drive for hours, and I dropped right into a meeting of a bunch of like-minded folks up in Oakland, and they were all great people. I mean, and I actually got to talk. We went into breakout sessions, and first of all, I saw that Reverend Jack was there, and Andrietta Earl, is that her name?
Andrietta.
Yeah, lovely person, and I've read her stuff in the magazine. And then in our breakout session, there were about 8 people, and I got to introduce myself, and we just talked. They gave us some things to talk about, and it was all very good and lovely. And if you have time on Wednesdays at 6 o'clock, they had something that was imitating, using teaching principles. They used information from a tiny book. This tiny book.
It's like magic.
Yeah.
I'll be your Vanna White anytime.
Yeah. It's called It Works, the famous little red book, first published in 1926. Then there was another book about fear.
Yeah,
So we talked about them.
This little book is available here in our bookstore for folks that, are a few copies in the back.
Talk to Donna. I didn't hear what she said. Oh.
So thank you for sharing about that. One of the things, and I wanted to hear from you because Heart and Soul Center of Light, they're your cousins. It is a like-minded teaching, and one of the things that I do is I write a play each summer, and some of the students act out the characters. So you got to meet the messenger of anger and the messenger of worry in the class last week, and that complements the other book that was introduced to folks that you can get anytime, but we cover it. It's called When Fear Speaks, Listen. And so join us Wednesday night. Go to heartsoulcenter.org, and you'll be able to just click in and join the Zoom. It's absolutely free. You can come anytime between now and August 14th for the next 4 consecutive Wednesday nights. Love to have you meet some people that you've always known, you just haven't met yet. So thank you. And I think I'm going to turn this over to you for your inclusivity.
Thank you so much, Reverend Jack. Good morning. And as he reminded you, I am a member of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion team. And we've been doing the theme of practice makes imperfect. And so I was ready to do the next part of that, which is calling forward the phrase, missing the mark. So I prepared to talk about that, and let me tell you, it's going to be short and sweet, because then I'm going to go to talk about what I really want to talk about inclusion and diversity. So first of all, missing the mark has 2 meanings. It's failure to achieve the intended result, and there's also a religious meaning, committing sin. Now, as you know, the Bible did not spring forth fully written in English. Various texts were originally written in Aramaic, Greek, Latin translated into those languages. So the Greek word for sin is hamartia, an archery term for missing the mark. So that's the religious part of missing the mark. But I'm moving right on. When I heard on Wednesday that Dr. Bernice Johnson Reagan had passed on, I had so many memories running through my head. You need to know about her. She was the musician who started the vocal ensemble Sweet Honey in the Rock. She also co-founded the Freedom Singers and the Harambee Singers. And at the age of 81, she passed on after a full and wondrous life. In the early 60s, Bernice Johnson Reagan performed with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee's musical group, Freedom Singers. She brought liberation songs to marches, jails, and organized meetings. In her own words, she tells a little bit about Sweet Honey and the Rock. She said, Sweet Honey and the Rock, which came out of a theater workshop, was going to be a cappella, which it was going to do songs that came out of the struggles and the stages of life of people on a community-based level, calling people to pay attention to the issues that we needed to be addressing as responsible citizens, and that singers and artists like we are so blessed with the singers we have here. Singers and artists had a really big role to play in challenging our society and culture to transform and do better. So absolutely, the Freedom Singers and the Freedom Song in the Civil Rights Movement is formative for me. She's speaking about herself, both as a singer, as a composer, and as a scholar. When her daughter announced that Bernice had passed on, she included a quote that was from Bernice that rang true to me because of things that Ernest Holmes has said and things that I truly believe from my heart. Bernice said, I was here before I came, and when I die, I am not leaving. In Science of Mind, one of our beliefs is, this is Ernest Holmes, we believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul, forever and ever expanding. That's Ernest Holmes. Maybe Bernice was familiar with his teachings. At any rate, from her, it is, I was here before I came, and when I die, I am not leaving. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
Now, for our reading on what we believe, we will do this together. The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God.
Thank you. And now, am I right, O voice in the sky, that it's time for our community song? Would you all rise? Thank you so much for that. You know, when I hear the melodies of this song, I think the movie that I'm called to go home and watch this afternoon is Grease. Because that sort of reminded me of one of the songs that would have been from that era and that period of time, just how the music was going on. And I realized by thinking of that, oftentimes the movies of our childhood are when we first realize there's something more. We may not know what that more is. We may not be able to put words to what that more is, but we know there's something more. Just like for many kids, I wasn't necessarily one of them, you know, a scary movie or episodes of The Twilight Zone or something like that, you know, you thought you were pretty brave when you watched it, but then you paid attention. And one of the things that I can remember is I'm reminded of two situations. One is a story that my first teacher in this movement, Terry Cole Whitaker, would teach. And she talks about this little boy who would probably watched one of those scary movies and had gone to bed. And in the middle of the night, he had this dream that this fire-breathing dragon was chasing him, hiding under the bed, and he would wake up and he would run down the hall and go into his parents' room and say, "The dragon is chasing me again. The dragon is chasing me again." And his father would calm him down and say, "Okay," and go back to the little boy's room, and they'd look in the closet. They'd look under the bed, and no dragon there. Yeah, no dragon in the closet. And, you know, okay, can you leave a little light on, Dad? Can you leave the door just a crack? And so Dad would do that, and they'd go back to bed, and they'd have a sleep. The next night, the same dream would come again, and the dragon would come bursting through his door, breathing flames right out and over the headboard of his bed, and the little boy would wake up in terror and again run into his parents' room, and the pattern would repeat itself. The next night, the same thing. Late in the night, the little boy had fallen asleep, and he started to dream. And once again, the fire-eating dragon came into his room, and the flames just lit up the entire room. And the little boy was terrorized, absolutely terrorized. And he jumped up, and he ran down the hall to his parents' room, and the door wasn't there. And he went further down the hallway until suddenly the hallway ended and it was just a wall. And he turned around and he looked at the dragon and said, "What are you going to do to me?" And the dragon said, "It's your dream, kid. It's your dream." The little boy never had that dream again because he realized that he had imagined it all along. And suddenly, the universe set it up so he was forced, by all appearances, to face his fear. To face his fear. And when he did, look what happened. Fear disappeared. I'm also remembered of a story of another little boy. The address was 417 South Meridian Street in Winchester, Indiana. Now, you think I'm going to be telling you a story about me, but I'm not. I'm going to tell you the story about my brother, who grew up in a beautiful new home with a mother and a father, and just after the end of World War II, the father made a gamble and lost everything. And he had to sell the home that he had built for his wife and child just 5 years earlier. Luckily, the father's parents owned an old Victorian duplex on Meridian Street. Now, this old house at one time had been a beautiful old stately house from the late 1800s. But because they were looking for sources of revenue, they decided to divide it up into 3 apartments so that they could make some revenue. So when my father and my mother and my little brother, when they lost everything, they were forced to go live in this older house. Well, what was interesting about this older house, the way that they had broken it up, divided it up, the people that lived on the south side of the house got the pretty old stairway, the one with the grand banister and all that. But in the other side of the house where they were forced to live, it was a kind of makeshift stairway, not quite as wide and kind of rickety. And as most stairways would have 18 or 20 steps, this one, because of how the building was divided up, had to have 25. So you would come up 5 steps, be at a landing, go up the rest of the way. The only light on this other stairway was one of those strings with a light bulb. And to hear my brother tell the story, he hated to go to bed at night because he would be sent up to his room and he would have to negotiate that scary, scary stairwell. And he would go and he would start to go up the steps, and he got halfway up. Poof! Y'all know what just happened in your imagination. The light bulb went out. He froze because he didn't know whether to turn around and go down or to go the rest of the way up. But because when a light bulb burned out and that day, you could hear it. And what he didn't know is that our mother had made her way to the bottom of the step. And she said, "Stop, surrender, you'll be okay. Just take one step at a time." So he would take one step and say, but I'm afraid I can't. You can't go back. You have to go ahead. You will soon see it's okay. So soon he took another step, and soon his eyes were above the floor, and he could see the light that was down the hall in his bedroom. And suddenly, it was okay. He could go the rest of the way. But I want to tell those 2 stories is because both of them talk about addressing our fear. Both of them offer insight that we are in control of this thing that we have imagined. As adults, we all knew that on that stairway he was safe. Just as adults, we all knew that that dragon, fire-eating dragon, was an imaginary thing. Well, if that's true about that, that is also what is the truth about all of our fears. All of our fears are only what we imagine the worst case scenario might be. Does that make sense? All fear is concocted out of our imagination. And so if all fear is concocted out of our imagination, then what we can ask is what is real. Spirit, show me what is real. What can I know is real? And I can immediately see it if I choose to see it. One of the things that we profess in this teaching, that where you put your attention expands. So if we are in a fearful situation, when we believe that everything is dire and the outcome is going to be horrific, guess what we're going to manifest? A very dire, horrific outcome. If we can take dominion of the moment, take dominion of that experience of being in fear, and adopt whatever words work for us. You know, the ones that I adopted in my life is fear is a false expectation appearing to be real. Now, you may put other words to that. Do you? But for me, that allows me to stop, breathe, relax, and surrender to the moment. To remember that Spirit has my back. Even in this, if I'm willing to listen, I will be guided as to what I am called to do in this situation. Every once in a while, the universe has to remind us, even when we forget to take dominion, that we are ultimately in charge of the situation, that we can take back control when we have given control away. Now, when do we give control away? Well, that's one of the things you'll learn in summer school. But one of the things is when it's one of the messengers of fear, which can show up as anger, can show up as worry, can show up as judgment, can show up as selfishness, can show up as shame, can show up as loneliness, or can show up as uncertainty. Now, each of us have a specialty. Just like we were a restaurant and somebody would come into our home and look at our menu, and our specialty here today is uncertainty. Because we thrive in uncertainty. Because if I live in uncertainty, I don't ever have to make a choice. I can just react and say that life is happening to me. And I'm like that silver ball in the pinball machine where I am just being tossed and flipped and hit. And I ring a few bells along the way, but the bottom line, I'm going to end up in the gutter. That's what happens when we live in that place of life happens to me, when we live in uncertainty. Then we have this opportunity to also notice, and this really came home to many people during the pandemic. They never realized that they were lonely until they were forced to be alone. We didn't realize how we could spiritually bypass that fear of loneliness by being engaged with a workforce or a community or a nonprofit or an organization where we could get lost in the mind think to avoid loneliness. But the antidote to loneliness is to find those like-minded people, even in this. That's one of the reasons why I want you to know your cousins at Heart and Soul. That's why I want you to know your cousins at Elder Pride. Because there are other people out there that share thoughts like you, that have ideas like you, that want to be engaged in conversation like you, to talk about spiritual futurism or whatever it is that your spiritual practice, because you know You can't talk to your cousin about it because they're still working their get into heaven plan. So they don't want to hear your idea right now. All right, love them and then find your tribe. Find your community that wants to be engaged with you, wants to have those conversations. Then we get to look at, okay, what is this thing about shame? Right now, if I were saying aloud to some of you, well, you should never stand in front of the room because actually you don't have very good presentation skills. I'm here to tell you there are a couple people in this room right here, right now that went, I know. Tain't so. You cannot listen to those words. You must reimagine all of that mind chatter that has been impressed upon your psychic for your entire life, because that is not your authentic self. Whatever perception your biological parents may have had about you had nothing to do with you. It only had to do with their perception of what they thought would be true for their child. Not about you. Those other classmates in school, they're only bullying you so that no one would bully them. Had nothing to do with you. I am here to tell you that 90% of what it is that you think about yourself has nothing to do with you. And so you must find you. You must find the you to selflessly love you, not selfishly separate you from others. That's just survival. That's just the first stage. Judgment. Oh my goodness. Judgment is manifesting like a wildfire in our society today. Judgment. Instant judgment. People operating on this idea that only their way is the true way. Having the audacity to believe that they are called to put in the correction to how you're living your life so you can get in tune to living your life the way they want you to live your life. It's not even the way that they're living their life. It's how they want you to live your life so they can have their life. Does that make sense? Okay. We got to see it. We got to talk about it. We got to understand this is happening on our watch. But it begins with us. So if we think that we have permission to tell somebody else how to do something differently, oh, here comes the law into effect. We got to be prepared to turn around and have somebody trying to tell us how to live our life. It works that way. What you put out is going to come back to you tenfold. So we have to be very intentional with our words. Very intentional with how we carry ourselves when we are facing fear. We are facing fear. What has worry ever done for you? Gave you ulcers. It gave you heartburn. It kept you awake and caused you to be without rest. Didn't really serve you, did it? So we have to look at this time. We have to find the words that whenever we realize that we're deep in this well of worry, that we can immediately turn it around and say, I know There is no situation that will ever manifest in my life that I do not already have the tools to transcend it. You already have the tools to transcend it. You can confront worry as if worry was that fire-breathing dragon. It's your reality. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do differently when you encounter any of the messengers of fear today, this week? What's going to be your go-to affirmation? What's going to be your way of showing another example of how it might be in an affirmative way? So much of the music that we listen to and the song that we're going to hear next, I'm not saying get ready for it yet. I got another half hour to go. No, just kidding. See, so many people went right to worry. He's really not going to talk for another half hour, is he? I did that for an example. Here's what I want you to know. You must envision the positive. You must envision the world working. So many people, so many of our ancestors have taught us, you know, when we talk about the levels of consciousness, where life happens to me, to moving up to the next level of consciousness, where I take dominion and life happens by me. Music is one of the bridges that gets us from there to where we want to go. And I want you to be really conscious of the music that you're listening to. If you're listening to the song that forever repeats, "Oh my man, he did me wrong," you're going to do nothing but manifest men that do you wrong. It's your prayer. It's like spirits listening to you. There she's playing that song again. Okay, I guess she really wants this drama. Okay, must be working through something big. We'll make it a little bigger this time around. Wow. If we're singing and celebrating the songs to speak of separation, all that can happen is the manifestation of more separation. Our ancestors that were enslaved often had chants that they would sing as they did the work to help them be in cadence with the work and to be able to do it more quickly. But if you listen to the lyrics of what they were saying, they were affirmative. They were talking about a day when peace would come. A day when such vitriol would not be the reality. The day that they would get over. Many of us have heard the song that came out of the Depression, "Oh Happy Day." It was sung as an affirmation. When it first was sung, it was not a happy day. But it was written to project the possibility of a day when there would be no depression, when there would be no starvation. It was futuristic. So oftentimes in a movement of any kind, all mankind really needs to see is one example of somebody getting over. Diane Carroll, being the first African American woman to portray a highly educated medical professional, on television inspired hundreds of children to suddenly realize that was possible in their lifetime. Prior to that, they had only experienced black women as housekeepers, maids, in servitude. Suddenly, they saw something else. I'm blanking out on her name, but the actress who was the first African American woman in Star Trek. Yes, inspired black folks to get into becoming astronauts. And they lift her up as why? Now, she wasn't an astronaut, but she still inspired them to be one because she introduced the idea of the possibility to those who didn't even know it was possible. So I say, whatever is going on in your world right now that is showing up as fear, whatever the manifestation, whether it be angry, what are you angry about? Tell me of one situation in your life where anger ever manifested in something good for you. If it did, it was simply when you heard yourself say, hell no, no more. Where you took dominion of your life. But even as you uttered those words, no more, it was your message of calmness in the heat of anger. Think about it. It's when something within you said, no more. It was if you were just being the vessel for something speaking through you that you had to hear. And you said, no more. It's when you took dominion of your life and said, no more worry. I'm going to pray and I'm going to turn it over to God. Because I operate with a faith, a philosophy, a way of living where I know that if I merely surrender to something higher than me, it will be taken care of in divine right order. When you can let go of judgment, when you can let go of shame, when you can let go of all those things and say, no more am I going to let you drive my life. Absolutely not. And if you feel that you can't quite get there, if you can't quite get there, find yourself a practitioner. Find yourself a prayer partner. Find yourself a like-minded person that will be your ally, your advocate, your co-conspirator for getting over. Because that's why we come together in community. We can change the world if we do it hand in hand. It's inside work that must be done. But if you see me doing my inside work, that makes it easier for you to do your inside work and to show that experience to someone else. And that makes it like, oh, okay, I see. Now, they may never acknowledge you for it, but they're watching you. They're watching you. You have been called to be the demonstration. And right now, as our musicians take their place, I want you to really listen to the lyrics of the song that they're going to sing. Now, you'll first want to go back to that very first time you heard it as a child and you wanted to click your heels together 3 times and go home. This is not about going home. This is about imagining a world that works for all, and what we are called to do to make that manifest. Thank you.
That I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly, birds fly over the rainbow winding. Why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why
Did you get it? Okay.
All right, now it's time to read the prosperity prayer. All right, today I expect every good thing to come to me, for I know that divine abundance is forever manifesting itself in my affairs. I am keeping my whole mind and thought and expectation open to new experiences, to happier events, to a more complete self-expression. Everything that belongs to spirit, I accept. Everything that partakes of the nature of divine reality, I claim as my own. I identify with success, and I prosper in everything I do.
As I give.
There's more. There's more.
Oh, wait, there's more.
As I give thanks for the good now flowing into my life, I gladly share the good with others. The more I give, the more I receive. I experience a deeper consciousness of peace and security, for I know that I am in the embrace of a warm, loving presence. My cup runneth over. I exist in limitless possibility.
And so it is.
That's right.
Thank you, Steve. So as our ushers come forward, this is our time for gracious giving. This is the time when we affirm that we believe that lack is not a part of our universe. And so the ushers will come up here to me. Come to me. Don't be collecting yet. So what I'm going to ask is that they touch each person that is here today. And even if you have nothing to give today, that you touch the basket and you bless it, so that you are pouring yourself into it and understanding and affirming that it is your gift that makes this experience of this center possible. This is where you're being spiritually fed. So now we receive your gifts in appreciation of that. The ushers will come forward and greet each one of you. And once everyone has touched the basket, I'm going to ask the ushers to come forward and turn and face you as we bless our gifts. So if everyone in the congregation will reach out your hands and simply repeat after me when we say, "Thank you, God, for the bounty that is ours, for the prosperity we experience. We say thank you, thank you, thank you." And so it is. Thank you. And so it is. So as we wrap up today, I want to ask the question that we began with, the affirmative prayer that we began with in our invocation. Were you inspired by something today? Was there a nugget that you can take with you today? If so, then our work here is done. And so we close our eyes and we come together in absolute thanksgiving that we have manifested a safe place to be our authentic self. Thank you. We give thanks for the music that has inspired us and the gifts of the talented artists that made it possible. We give thanks for those in sacred service that have broadcast us out on the internet to those who could not be with us, but they're with us in spirit, they're with us energetically. We give thanks for the technology that supports us. We give thanks for those, as they say, pushing the buttons and making things happen. We give thanks that even though there is the illusion of no air conditioning, we still feel the breeze that surrounds us and reminds us that we are loved. Even with this, we give thanks for all that we have become aware of today and for the opportunity to be the ones called to go forth and be the demonstration. Because we know that peace on earth is possible and that it begins with me. And so it is. So come join us in our circle as we sing the peace song.